And welcome to It's Not Your Fault. Thanks for joining us today. I'm your co-host Kim Powers-Stilson with author Steve Shenk and, of course, host Lexi. And Lexi has all kinds of opinions that you'll get to watch for online if you check out the Facebook page for Lexi and Steve Shenk and It's Not Your Fault.tv. Okay, so Steve, everyone, if you haven't watched this before, Steve Shenk is the author of the book It's Not Your Fault. It comes with a companion guide, My Book of Life. And the book has many chapters and many things you can relate to your life. It starts with every man, Michael, representative of every man, and the guardian
and
or
women.
the teacher, and women. And the guardian and the teacher appears when Michael, every man and woman, needs it. And it's a great book because I read it first in May, and I have already applied it to my family. And just this morning, my daughter quoted it back to me, and last night my husband quoted it back to me. It's changed our life in many ways, and you've got to read it.
It's when people quote it back to me that it really bothers me.
Yeah.
I hate going into the office and being ranting and raving about something that's not going right, and I have somebody quote my own stuff back to me, and it just really is.
Yeah, it's irritating, isn't it?
It's just aggravating as all get out.
Well, and if you want to hear more about having a charmed life, I mean, that's not an official term of your It's Not Your Fault program, but my goodness, charm life, let me tell you, what a charm life Steve Shenk and the people that you work with lead, and it's really fun to see the things that are accomplished when people are focusing on gratitude. So before we start the show today, we're going to talk about 90%. We have a seminar coming up, so if you're watching this, I'm sure there's one near you. This one coming up is a great first of the year conference where we're going to talk about how it's not your fault, and you will find that you will have burdens alleviated from your shoulders. But Steve, you have a theory that I think is amazing that goes along with these conferences that you give, and it's a 90%.
It's kind of interesting. Back when I was doing training for some of the sales organizations, the reason that they had me doing the training is because I did fairly well out in the field and had set some sales records, and people wanted to know what I did, what I said, and all that.
You beat all the records.
Well, yeah. But that's not the point. The point is that I'd have other guys come up and talk to me and say, well, now how much of what you do you actually tell people? Because you don't want everybody to know what you do. Otherwise, everybody would be out there doing the same thing you do, and they'd be successful. And I thought about that for quite a while, about that long, and I discovered that it's not true.
You mean the competition?
Well, there is no competition. There is no competition with you. The only competition you have is with yourself, because very simply, you can't teach anybody anything. The only people that can be taught are the students who are ready to have their teacher appear. And what it boils down to is that the only people, I could have 500 people sitting in a room that were wanting to learn how to sell whatever it was, whatever widgets that I happened to be selling that I was telling them how to sell. And of those 500 people, easily 90% of them would get absolutely nothing out of it. I could pour my heart out, and I could tell them every single thing that I did, what the word tracks that I used, every secret that I thought that I developed, and 90% of them, nothing. They wasted their money. Wouldn't do any good. Why? Well, here's the law, guys. When the student is ready, the teacher appears. But here's the corollary to that. Until the student's ready, it doesn't make any difference who the teacher is. They can't get through. And I can prove it to you. I can prove it to every one of you sitting out there. If you've ever dealt with a teenager that you're trying to get to learn something, a principle, you're trying to get them not to make the stupid mistake that you made when you were a teenager, until they're ready, until they get hit across the forehead with that 2x4 that knocks them to their knees, and they realize, oh, that didn't work. You can't be a teacher. They could bring Winston Churchill, Disraeli, they could bring Mohammed, they could bring Jesus Christ himself, and You remember how many people followed him? Very few. Okay, so in that group of people, I discovered I can tell them everything I can think of. I can even get some inspiration of things that I'd never even tried that I was going to try when I got out of the room. And maybe 10% of them would make notes. And of that 10%, 10% would actually go out and try something. And of that 10%, 10% would actually apply it, make it work, and say, oh, that works.
Why is
My
that?
goodness. Because it gets back to a show that we had just a little bit ago about when do people really pray? Only after they've been bashed across the forehead, dropped to their knees, they got nobody else to ask, they got nobody to turn to, they have almost no hope, and just to get some hope, they go and they ask God, and then they're teachable, and all of a sudden the teacher trots on in. It might be a book, it might be a TV program, it might even be Steve Shenk saying, "You need your teacher to appear," or something like that. But the teacher will appear if you're ready. So
you're saying it probably has happened to you. For those of you listening, maybe has something you're working on, it's probably happened to you many times. You just weren't ready.
Oh, absolutely. So what's going to happen when the folks come to that seminar? We will have a lot of people that are wanting to be somewhat teachable and think that there might be a pony in there someplace. You know that story, and I won't tell it on TV again about the horseman. But the fact is that you'll have a lot of people sign up for the seminar. 90% of them will get nothing out of it, because we'll look out over the crowd, and 90% of them will not even be taking notes. How are you going to remember something? People forget 80% of what they learn every day.
Do you think that some percentage of that 90% get something, though? I mean, it seems like I often will...
They'll come away with a warm feeling, but you can get that from a hot shower. It's true. They'll come up after the thing and say, "Steve, that was just wonderful.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know where you came up with those concepts. I don't know how you managed to put so succinctly those ideas that I've never heard before. Well, let me tell you where I got them. See this forehead is slightly sloping from all the 2x4s I got hit across the head with, and I had to figure something out. And the only time I would pray, the only time I would actually say, well, I heard about this writing your goals down and being grateful for stuff, and things are so miserable. I got no place to go, no more money that I can borrow from anybody, and nobody else to ask. And I've been talking to Father about this all the time, praying. Maybe I ought to try this stupid little simple thing that everybody looks at and says, that's too simple to work. Give me something complicated. You know, there's a story about a king in the scriptures that had leprosy. Okay? And he was told very simply to go down to the River Jordan and just bathe, and his leprosy would be healed. And he thought about it. He said, that's too simple. I can't do that. Yeah, I'm the king. I ought to be able to get my health practitioners in here, and they ought to get in touch with the American Pharmaceutical Society and get me something that'll be a magic bullet to heal me. That's not quite what he said, but I kind of quote scriptures.
It's relatable, to know.
But the old king really wanted to say, well, I have all this power. I should be able to command it to be done myself. No, dumb butt, just go down there and wash in the River Jordan, and you'll be healed. It was too simple. Well, what we're telling people is every fear that you've got is connected with a dependency that you can be independent with if you just envision and become spiritual, not religious, but spiritually inclined, and use that magnificent power of creation that every individual is born with, that has a right with, to take control of their lives and be captains of their souls and masters of their destinies, or however way that goes. And the fact is that it's too simple. It's too simple for the 90% They will come up and say what a wonderful feeling they have after that lecture, how inspired they were. But here's the litmus test, guys. If you come to that seminar or any of my seminars or any seminars of people that are trying to teach you something, here's the litmus test. Are you a 10%er or are you a 90%er? You are a 10%er if, in fact, you're taking notes and writing down the thoughts that mean something to you. Because if you go to some place where knowledge is being given, the universe has an obligation to you for you to be taught exactly what you need. I might be talking about something completely different than what your problem is, but for some reason, I will say something that will key a thought in your mind where you will be taught exactly what you know if you deserve it, and the way you deserve it is if you come wanting to be fed the knowledge and the bread of life that the Savior talked about in the Scriptures, but the knowledge that you need. And we will follow up with that just after this little break that we need to take so that you can hear about what you need to do in another part of your life. Be back soon.
Folks, have you ever realized that freedom is spelled F-O-O-D? Food. After air and water, food is our greatest dependency. Taking control of that dependency ensures personal power, independence, and freedom. We can't control earthquakes, storms, martial law, dollar crash inflation, the global warming hoax, farm and garden restrictive legislation, job loss, crop failures, or the 2012 planet disruptions. However, if we have our own food, none of these can control us. Hunger can never be used to control you if you never are forced to stand in a bread line because you do not have your own bread. It seems the only freedom we still have control of is possession of food. If we don't control our own food, events are rapidly moving to use food to control us. Freedom truly is spelled F-O-O-D. Contact efoodsdirect.com or call 800-409-5633. That's efoodsdirect.com or 800-409-5633.
And welcome back to It's Not Your Fault. Thanks for joining us. I'm your co-host, Kim Power-Stilson, with Steve Shenk, author of It's Not Your Fault, and Lexi, who's co-hosting with us today. If you want to get Lexi's take, you think she's sleeping, but actually she's taking notes. If you want her take, go visit her on Facebook. You can find her on the Steve Shenk page or the It's Not Your Fault TV page. Okay, I can hardly wait to get back to this. We were talking about, for instance, attending seminars and the litmus test for whether or not you're one of the 10% who are ready to receive and change your life, or the 90% who won't get a thing other than a warm, fuzzy feeling from...
And you can get that from a hot shower. So, given that fact, continue with the litmus test. If you're taking notes, and remember I was saying that if you are taking notes, if you're wanting to learn, you have to get knowledge. I've been to a lot of meetings, church meetings included, where I'm sitting there saying, well, this is boring, I've heard this before. No, dummy. If you take a notepad, or if you even take a book and start reading it, some 7-year-old kid up there that's just bearing a little testimony or something like that will say something. I promise you, if you put yourself in the way of a teacher, the teacher is required to appear. So have in your mind the thoughts, the things that you want to learn. So if you're sitting in one of my seminars and you're taking your notes, you might be a 10%er. Now, if when you leave that seminar, don't waste your time coming up and saying what a wonderful seminar it is. That's not the point. It's about you. It's not about the guy giving the seminar. That's kind of goofy. I like appreciation just as much as anybody, but you'd be better off I can't wait for that guy to shut the heck up so I can get out there and I can do some of this crap. And then if you go home, and as soon as you get home, you can't wait to start writing things down, or you take the book and you start reading it, or you start doing something. You don't even know what to do yet. But with any goal, what you do is once you've made the decision that you're going to accomplish it, that decision is the creation of it. And then you just do whatever you can think of to do, and as you do the thing, the inspiration will come, as to what the next thing you need to do is if you focus only on the outcome and don't be thinking, oh no, how do I do this? What shall I do? So if you go home and start to do it right away, you might be a 10%er.
And what does that mean? I mean, when you say 10%, what you mean is that 10% is
the 10%
likely
that
to
will get
succeed.
something out of this.
So, but likely to succeed and accomplish what?
The 10% that are ready for the teacher to appear.
Okay.
You see, we got 200 people out there.
Okay.
Okay? 10% of them are ready. 90% of them are the hot shower folks.
Okay.
It's okay to be a 90%er. You will, all you're doing is you're just waiting for the 2x4 to hit you across the head so that it knocks you to your knees, so that you don't have anything else to do but to just say, I need to do something. Then you'll maybe remember the seminar that you went to, go drag the book out, knock the dust off from it, and start reading and say, oh, why didn't I do this a long time ago? The reason is that you didn't have the 2x4 a long time ago, and you weren't made ready for the teacher to appear. But let's go back to the 10%ers.
Okay.
They go back. Now, here's the third litmus test. Remember, the first one is they're taking notes. The second one is if they go home and do something right away. The third one is very important. If you get past the 3-day rule. I have a 3-day rule. I can take vitamins for 3 days, I can exercise for 3 days, but after that I go to heck in a handbasket and can't follow up on any program. It's the same with most everybody. If you get past the 3-day rule and you're still reading your goals and you're still writing your gratitudes after 3 days, and you can get to 21 days, it's a habit, and you have concluded that you are a 10%er and you have been the student for whom the teacher has appeared, and you are on your way to all the success and glory and fun and joy in your life that you can possibly have. And I've just about worn everybody out on that subject. Be a 10%er, not a 90%er. It's okay to be a 90%er, but you're just waiting for your 2x4 to smack you on the forehead and drive you to your knees so that you need help.
The sooner the better, right?
And then you'll remember the wonderful words of wisdom of, it's not your fault. You are a magnificent being. Just don't should on yourself too much. Thank you very much.
And you can find us on Facebook and find out about the conference and see whether or not you'll be a 10%er. Thanks for joining us on It's Not Your Fault.
Thank you.